What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about AMD, Advanced Micro Devices. This $82 stock, I believe, is really interesting, especially when we're comparing it to other businesses such as Nvidia and Intel, which I believe Nvidia is extremely overvalued, whereas I think Intel is another business that AMD is absolutely killing it when it comes to market share. So I've got a quick breakdown. We're going to kind of break down the financials. We're going to run through their presentation. And then I've got a few points on why I believe Nvidia is getting killed by AMD and why Intel is also getting killed by AMD. And I think AMD's valuation is much more attractive than both of these. Now, with the market also being so volatile, AMD's been one of these companies that has been hit hard. Now, if we take a look at their past performance, even after the kind of huge beatdown from kind of $150, we're now trending back down at about $82, still a 42.1% compounded annual growth rate. Now that beats the market every day of the week. So that's exactly what we're looking for, but can this still continue? So if I break down the financials, we can see we're looking at a market cap of $135 billion and a total enterprise value of $132 billion. So already we can see they have more cash on hand, which is already a great sign. Short interest is low, which is exactly what you want to see. You don't want to see a bad company or a good company with high short interest. So if we break down the financials, let's take a look at their balance sheet and income statement. So now that we can see their revenue has increased from over 6 billion in 2018 to now 23 billion last 12 months and full month 22. Now we can also see their kind of year-over-year growth rate has been astonishing, ranging from around 45 to 68% in 2021, which is just phenomenal, to be honest. This is a high growth company, and I think this is what makes it so much interesting when comparing it to Nvidia. When Nvidia only did, I believe, only 0.2% full year 2023 start. So we can already see AMD's already in a greater growth place. However, when it comes to looking at their net income, let's take a look and see if it's just as strong. So we'll take a look at their net income now. We can see, again, it's gone from 337 billion to now 1.3 billion, which is just phenomenal. Now, if we take a look at another important thing, which I think shouldn't go miss, is the shares diluted. Now, with the shares diluted, we can see they have been increasing shares, which isn't ideal. However, there have been mergers and acquisitions along the way, which could implement kind of the change in shares outstanding. But for the growth, this is where AMD, you're expecting kind of shares diluted when you're talking about growth companies. Now, AMD is killing it in the game when it comes to semiconductor units, such as data centers, clients, gaming, embedded GPUs. This GPU company is absolutely destroying the game when it comes to beating their competitors, such as Intel. But I'm just going to break down a little bit more about what they do, where they specialize, and increase their margins and also their revenue. So as we can see, revenue full year 2021 has increased rapidly from 16.4 billion to 23.6 billion. Full year 2022. Now, if we break down a bit further, we can see year over year, we can see the different sectors have been growing depending on whether they've been embedded in data center segments, and that's also been partially offset by lower client and gaming segment revenue. Now, if we take a look at their gross margins, when we took a look at their gap is 50% and compared to 43% when ranging from Q4 2021 to 2022, which isn't ideal. However, I think that's mainly due to amortization of Xilinx acquisition related to an intangible asset. So when we consider the non-GAAP, it's clearly much better than the GAAP. And if we look further down, we can take a look at their operating income. Again, due to the same kind of acquisition, we can see when we take a look at their non-GAAP, it's gone from 4.1 billion to 6.3 billion, which is definitely a positive outcome. Now, looking further down, if we go to earnings per share, this is where we want to see, again, increase in earnings per share, which again, due to the acquisition, that's kind of skewed the GAAP earnings. But when we take a look at the non-GAAP, which is excluding cash expenses, we can see they've increased from 2.79 full year 2021 to full year 2022 of 3.5, which is a really good increase. And I think that's what makes the valuation of AMD so much more interesting than a company like Nvidia. So guys, I found a really great article which I think we need to break down when we can see just kind of the disparity in terms of market share between AMD, Nvidia and Intel, and just where I think AMD is embedding itself as the next leader in terms of semiconductor stock. So obviously this year has been very painful as kind of a 2022 due to inflation and recessionary concerns, and that obviously impacts on revenue, EPS, all things profit. So as we can see, AMD was most successful with a yearly growth of 62%, even with all this stuff. Now, Intel dropped around 16% of its data center GPU, CPU revenue in 2022. So if we break down this chart, we can see in 2021, Intel had a market share of GPU global data centers of 80.7%. Now, AMD had 11% and then others 4.6%. And then, AWS with 1.8. So then we look to 2022, and this is where AMD has been eating the market share of Intel. Intel dropped over 10% down to 70%, and AMD gained that 10% into AMD, while all the others remained pretty much stable with 4.7%, and then AWS taking an extra 1%. So as you can see, it's been clearly in favor of AMD, and this is just one reason where AMD is taking market share from Intel, and why the stock performance of Intel has underperformed compared to AMD, which has slowly increased. Now, if we look a bit further down using the pie chart, we can see the kind of the process generation performance share, and we can also see how like Intel has originally kind of decreased the amount compared to AMD. AMD has this 37.1% here, which is just absolutely fantastic. And even though Intel is still the market leader, because it's losing that market share, that AMD is suppressing everything that Intel is doing. And this is just where I think AMD is the next generation of products. So AMD's biggest competitor and the company is most often compared to is Nvidia. Now, both companies compete in the consumer graphics GPU market, and with their stocks similarly plunging over 50% in 2022 amid declining in PC component spending. However, there are a few reasons AMD is a better investment now. Last year was difficult for all companies in the PC market, with worldwide shipments of GPUs falling 42% throughout 2022. AMD fared better much than its competition, with its 8% market share in consumer GPUs compared to Nvidia's 88%. As a result, in fiscal 2022, AMD's revenue rose 43.6% year over year to $23.6 billion, while Nvidia's increased 0.2% to $26 billion. And 97 billion. Now, if we take a look at AMD's price target and analyst rating, it's currently at an $82.6 stock. Now, the consensus analyst price target is $93, implying a 13.2% upside. Now, based on the 30 analysts, they've got it as a moderate buy, and I believe this is probably somewhere in the range as well. I think looking further down, we can see the different buys, but there's 20 buys across the board, and looking at 1 year ago, it's gone even to the current. We've gone from 18 to 20 and 24 to 20 again. And then the hold ratings have pretty much been consistent. And as you can see, there's 0 sell ratings. So if we look again further down, this is broken down into, we have got just a standard line graph, and then we've also got just a standard bar chart. Now, if we rate it compared to the competition, now looking at other computer and technology companies, so this will include companies like Intel, Nvidia, we can see that AMD implies more upside, and this is great for us. And then when comparing it to the S&P 500, they've got it down as a hold, whereas AMD's case, it's a buy. Now, if we take a look at AMD's estimates for 2023 and 2024, this is going to give us a better insight in terms of valuation for future. Now, if we take a look at their initial revenue of 2023, they've got it growing 0.6%. Now, this is all under estimates of analysts, so this doesn't exactly mean they're factual. We need to kind of take these with a pinch of salt, because these may not be fully accurate. And then if we look further down, I think what's probably wanting to look at is the EPS number. Now, if we extrapolate from the EPS number, using it as a 3.05 EPS, we can extrapolate that out and then look at what the company would be trading for in 2023 numbers. So currently at $82 a stock, if we divide that by 3, that gives us a 27 PE. Now, with a company normally growing around 40%, even though this year there's clearly been a decline, we can see that there's going to be a re-acceleration in 2024. And again, if we look to extrapolate further out, we can see the EPS is supposed to almost jump by 43%. Now, using that number instead, at $82 a stock, divide that by 4.38, and that trades at an $18 PE. Now, at an 18 PE, that makes the company look far more attractive. And then if we extrapolate out further to 2025, I think that's slightly more difficult because there's so many different moving parts with a company like AMD. But I think we can see the valuation is clearly much more attractive. Now, if we take a look at comparing that to Nvidia, now taking a look at Nvidia's revenue, we can see they've got them growing 10% in 2024 and only 0.2% in 2023. And then in 2025 numbers, they've got them estimated at 22%. Now, I personally believe Nvidia will be in the same sort of range, maybe even more growth than Nvidia. So if we take a look further down and rate kind of the difference in EPS, we've got a 4.45 in 2023, but the share price is at $230. So if we divide $230 by 4.45, that gives a 51 PE with a lower growth rate than AMD. Then again, if we extrapolate that out into 2025, now we're looking 2 years on now. Now, if we take a look at 2025 at $230, divide that by 5.86, and that gives you a 39 PE still. So this is still a large concern. And I've got another video breaking down why I believe Nvidia is so overvalued to AMD. Now, where I think AMD has even greater expectations for the future this is because of their qualitative qualities. And this, one of the biggest qualitative qualities they have is their CEO, Lisa Su. Now, Lisa Su has been in charge of AMD as a CEO in 2012. She drew over as she became the senior vice president and then general manager of the business. She then transformed into the kind of the global business unit sector and was responsible for driving end-to-end business execution of AMD's products and solutions. Now, with AMD, if you said AMD back in 2012, everyone would have been like, what are you talking about? Intel's the greatest semiconductor stock out there. AMD is trash. Well, this is where Lisa Su has transformed this company, and it's keeping executing year over year, delivering high amounts of growth and impacting market share where Intel is unable to keep up with the driving technology that AMD is able to produce. And this is where Lisa Su can't be understated. And I think when we talk about great leaders, Lisa Su is definitely in that position. So am I buying AMD? Well, this is the biggest question everyone's probably wondering. At $82 a share and around a 25p, this company, in my opinion, is fairly valued. And I think that's exactly where it's placed for me. It's a fairly valued business in an economy where there's so many overvalued stocks still, but there's also so many undervalued stocks that keep getting picked up. While I believe its competition, such as Nvidia, is way too overvalued, and you can watch that video up here, I think when we take a look at other options, I think other companies, as my favorite is Overstock, you can also watch that video if you want to check that out. Then I think AMD is one to have on the watch list. I think at $82 a share, it's definitely got a lot of growth potential into the future, but I think there's too many headwinds with this company currently. With a slowdown of the general economy, I think this company could underperform in the near term, but in the long term, with the acceleration of growth into 2024, I think this company will continue its strong share price growth. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and make sure you give a comment. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next one.